Welcome to the latest episode of UNBIND with Bindable. I'm your host, Jocelyn Getson, Chief Growth Officer at Bindable. And the title of today's episode is Authentically Innovating, How to Effectively Advocate for Lasting Change. And if there's anyone that knows something about developing innovative ideas and seeing them through to success and being her authentic self along the way, it's Laura Bennett. Laura's SVP of e-consumer North America at Chubb. Laura's leading the team that is building and developing Blink by Chubb, Chubb's digital insurance portfolio of products and services aimed at millennials. And actually, prior to Chubb, Laura co-founded and led Embrace Pet Insurance, which is really one of the most respected and transformative US pet insurers. And I believe was the first pet actuary in the US. So more to come on that. And certainly not one to shy away from a challenge. Laura is making a difference in insurance by thinking differently, executing on new programs, and bringing her genuine and authentic leadership style to every new initiative. So today we get to hear firsthand the path that has led Laura to her current role and what it's been like bringing an innovative brand like Blink to life within a large insurer like Chubb. So welcome, Laura. Lots going on. Welcome.
Awesome. Thank you. And it's really fun to be here. Just hanging out and talking all things digital insurance and authentic kind of leadership. So I'm enjoying that. So
I am too. You know, it's funny. People always ask, they're like, well, why'd you start doing this? It's like, well, I just like talking to people. And I think, you and I met at a conference and have met a few times now. And you just have always stood out as someone who I just enjoy the conversation and just, excited to be able to have the opportunity to bring your story to more people. And so, yeah, thank you. And I think on that note, actually, it'd be great to tell the audience. I always like to start at the beginning, a little bit about yourself. Like, how did you actually maybe get started in insurance, but even backing that up, like, what was that journey like to get to where you are today?
yeah, so I think we all can agree probably the vast majority of people who are in insurance never planned it, or if you did, your path to where you are today is probably not what you'd imagined. But I started off accidentally getting into insurance. I was doing a mathematics degree and I had no idea what I wanted to do with it. In fact, I was thinking of planning to become a tool and die maker, which I know sounds really odd.
Wow.
But I didn't go into engineering, but perhaps that might have been an option for me. And
like industrial design?
yeah,
Yeah.
so all sorts of 3D visual type stuff.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking of that because I didn't want to become a teacher and I didn't want to go through and do a master's and so on. Like, I love mathematics, but I was not the person that thought in n degrees, like nth degrees. Right. And so I ended up getting a job in an insurance company. The listing said that you had to write actuarial exams, right? And I said, well, the only thing I know about the actuarial exams is that the first one is a mathematics exam. So surely I should be able to do that all right. And so I'll just tell them I'm writing
the bar. You're like,
exam.
the bar's here. I could do that. Okay.
I know. Little did I know how hard they are. So I squeaked through when I did it. So in the interview, I said, yes, I'm writing the first exam, and anyway, sort of bluffed my way into this job, and it was a summer job, and I loved it. I couldn't believe how much I loved it because I was given this project that basically I had to dig in the basement for a whole bunch of contracts and translate them into some past premiums that we hadn't paid to supposedly save the day from an insurance conflict that was happening. Right. And so at the end of I had such fun. I really enjoyed it. So I thought, this I could do. Maybe I should look into this and do this. And so after that, I was sort of hooked.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you say that, though. It's like, I think some people go into insurance and they think about it very flat, that it's like you're buying, you're selling, but you're right. There is like that problem solving component, that there is that excitement, there is that save the day kind of mindset, that no matter what career you're in, if you want to love it, you have to find that hook, of what, and it's not just the actuarial part, but I think what's cool is that you not only took your interest in actuarial work, but you actually expanded that and you looked at pet, which is, now a very common and, a very valued product. But what was that like to get there?
Yeah. So, I did, go into a traditional actuarial role, like in life and health company in Toronto and Dublin, Ireland. So I did the international experience, and I just, kind of ended up just going, you know what, I am not the corporate person, which is kind of ironic given my position today, but I'll tell you more about that. But so I left I thought thinking I needed to leave insurance to find what I was looking for. And I went to do my MBA. And when I was there, a friend's cat got sick, and she spent over $5,000. This is 2001. So
Wow.
a lot of
Yeah.
money, even today.
Even today, yeah.
And so she'd come from the UK and said, gosh, I should have had pet insurance, because at the time, 12% cats and dogs were insured. So long story short, we four of us got together to put together a business plan for the business plan competition at Wharton, and we won. But doing the research for that, I said, this is really actually a real product, and it's done so poorly in the US. At the time, it was like less than 0.25% cats and dogs insured, and partly it was because there were a few products that actually did what you would want. And I thought, maybe this is my opportunity. And I didn't sort of found the hidden entrepreneur behind the scenes, and ended up graduating. And Alex Kruglich and one of the people on that team, ended up co-founding Embrace Pet Insurance. And that is how I got into pet insurance. My mother was a veterinary technician at one point in her career, and she was also an entrepreneur. She had a small bookshop that she had launched herself, and so I looked to her as my inspiration. And
I love that.
So we venture capital, we're digital, we're everything back in 2003 to when I left in 2017.
Well, you had shared with me one time that you actually went to the vet offices and started to just ask questions, right? And I think that's also a step people miss, is that they get caught in the numbers and caught in the underwriting, and actually going in, and obviously your mom's experience, even in being in a vet clinic. I mean, just getting that kind of boots on the ground feedback too, it helps you better understand how you can avoid risk, I would think. Like, oh, we get people coming in all the time and they swallowed a dog toy or whatever it might be, I'm sure, but did that help? I would think going in.
You won't believe, I mean, obviously startup with two people at the beginning, you're doing everything. So yes, while I was the numbers person, I was the chief underwriter, the chief actuary, but also the chief, HR person. I did a lot of the strategy. I did the partnerships with the insurance companies, and also company culture and understanding the pet parent. And so yes, I spent a lot of time in vet hospitals. I spent a lot of time talking. I took calls with pet parents, and really honing on the customer experience you have to do all of that. And it helped bring together when you're trying to manage your product, it's not just the increasing prices if loss ratio is going up. It's like, what can we do to make this easier to administer? B, what could be a great experience for the customer? And how can we manage it? So yes, we did a lot of things, like we had a 6-month waiting period for orthopedic conditions, for example. Right. And I said, well, that's not that fun if you end up getting something randomly in that 6 months. So we offered the opportunity for you to go and have your dog examined, a basic exam, and fill out a form and be waived. And then you could just bring that down to, the 2-week, 2-day waiting period that we had, which
gave you flexibility and some, ownership on the client. Like, okay, you don't like that? Well, here's an option then that you can pursue if you want to take that step. And there's a benefit to doing that.
Yeah, people really owned it, and it actually created this engagement, a surprising engagement that you thought people would want to avoid, but it was a great thing. So that experience really taught me that you have to be hands-on in all ways to really bring a holistic view of the product and the risk.
I couldn't agree more. And on that note, I mean, I think, is it Blink's first birthday soon? Or
yes,
I think it's
yes,
gotta be about a year now. Congratulations.
Thank
That's
you. Thank you.
that's huge. And one of the, questions when I was kind of thinking of what to ask is I always love to know, like, what was the concept or the hypothesis behind Blink? And like, what drew you to the opportunity to take on the challenge, the positive challenge of bringing such a digital product within Chubb to life?
Well, yes, that was especially when you heard that I escaped the corporate world.
Well, everything that led up, exactly. It begs the
So
question. Yeah.
yeah, but what intrigued me with this is that I this was an opportunity that I you couldn't pass up. I mean, I had basically built a product and stood with it over 14 years,
Right.
and all that went with that. And so I wanted to take all that I'd learned from that and then do way more. And so the idea was, that Chubb is well known for its high net worth products and services,
Yes.
and to build a digital portfolio of products and services aimed at millennials that are digital end to end, that are all basically focused on the life that digitally oriented people live, right? So not necessarily what high net worth people would want, something a little more direct, easier, simpler, and with the same amazing customer experience, but in a
Right.
digital way that Chubb offers. So I thought, what an amazing opportunity. I was just blown away with this, and so that's sort of what led me into this. And we started off now with our first product back a year ago with cyber.
Yeah.
And we have another product, Blink Paycheck, coming soon in the next couple of months.
Very
And
exciting.
we spent, a lot of time really sort of solidifying the technology, because the great thing about what we're doing here within Chubb is we're kind of standalone, which is this sort of strange concept within
Yeah.
such an enormous company. We're sort of a little bit out of the firewall, and that gives us the sort of ability to be nimble and innovative
Right, because it's almost that
within.
cliche of would it's Blink that startup within Chubb. But I will say, even being around your team and Leslie Marshall, who's amazing and a force of nature in
She
herself,
is.
you have a great, speaking of, authentic leadership across the board, you have such a great team. But it really doesn't, you're right, like it does feel like it's its own energy and brand, which is so impressive, that you're able to retain the wonderful parts of Chubb, but still bring life to the products and to the brand itself. But
Yeah, no, there's absolutely no doubt about it, and it had to be that way. Well, I mean, that was the point, to be something
yeah,
different, but yet bring all the strengths of Chubb,
yeah,
and I mean, which are numerous. So it's like fantastic to, if you look at our colors, for example, we actually very rainbow colored, but that's it's based on the Chubb actual visual brand, but in a more modern, aimed at millennials way,
yeah.
which I think we've done really well, really well. And
I
kudos for
definitely.
Leslie listening, because
That's
she took my ideas and made them actually happen. It's just
it's
awesome,
it's it is
and
awesome.
extended it beyond that. Yeah.
Well, and it's funny, because I always kind of caution people, and as tech forward as I think, and how much opportunity I see in insurance, I think there's that risk of innovating for the sake of innovating, right? Meaning, like, there should always be a clear challenge or opportunity you're trying to solve for and improve upon. And I will say, though, sometimes, even when you see that path, and you certainly have, because you have, really interesting and cool products that are very relevant and timely. But it can be hard to communicate the ROI on that innovation, and like gather internal support. It doesn't matter who your organization is, even within a startup at times, to get that. So how do you generate buy-in, from those around you, from leadership, from, cross-functional support teams, especially if you sense that hesitation? What do you have advice when people are trying to bring something like this to life?
Well, so first of all, innovation can be many ways. Like, it's not just product. I mean, for us, it's I mean, there's product. There's even how you file and structure your policy, which is an
Mm,
innovation in what we have done. And of course, the experience, and even within a large company like Chubb, the end-to-end nature of what we're doing is an innovation. So everything that we're doing is a little bit alien and different. So it's for me, there are small things, like there are small things, and so it's explaining and telling a story, and then people going, oh, and just buying into the enthusiasm. I mean, frankly, so everybody at Chubb has been so welcoming with this idea, and it's so excited about it. So even though something that I'm proposing is different, they're open to this, and really working hard to work out how they can bring themselves towards us, perhaps.
Right. Oh, that's a good
also,
idea.
Yeah, big things though, where Chubb is a little less. They're much more of a stretch. And believe me, I stretch everyone. I push every boundary in every way, including my own boss. It's exhausting, but it's what needs to be done. But it's good. But it's good because no matter, even in a startup, there are boundaries that you have to. It's not unlimited for many reasons. Anyone in a startup would agree with that. Outside, you might say that's not the point of a startup, but there is still struggles.
It is, yeah, like knowing when to push, for that innovation and when to hold back. I mean,
That's
how do you walk that line? I mean,
So what I found is, on the big things that are going to be like, this is a push. First of all, numbers and facts, my prior experience, and going and trying tests and small things to show. I can, give an example, which is Chubb typically works with agents and partnerships.
Yeah.
And we're direct to consumer, but we do direct to consumer through partnerships is typically how we've launched. But direct to consumer, literally out in the open, we are working on. And
right.
But you pay agents and partners as you sell policies. You don't pay upfront like you do in the direct to consumer world, where you're paying a lump sum to get that lead. And then, and so these are
the
different.
Acquisition costs,
Yes, exactly. The financials are very different between the two. And so, so this is the show that it works, that you don't have to go and, mortgage yourself to Google to make this happen and so on. And to build that in small ways and build up over time. And I'm doing some of that sort of. It's not stealth. It's very, here I am doing this. Look, it's and over here, by the way, I'm paying my bills with these partnerships. Because everybody.
Well, you get the train on the tracks, and then you say, we're just going to test this new stop over here, and sometimes it's knowing when to say that route didn't work, and we're back on this track. I think testing is great. Knowing when to also say, how long, like setting that duration. That's sometimes a critical missing part too, right? Is that people go into a test and then 3 years later, it's like, well, did you put resources behind it? Did you, what's the next, you get a proof point, what next, right?
Yes. Yeah, no, totally. And, I'm a big believer in the holistic view of this, that each one by itself is okay. The two together, that's where you start to leverage what you've done. And so it's, what I'm trying to do is show that, prove that out. And, it's exciting. I mean, I think, it's like tippy-toeing through, and then all of a sudden, like, wow, okay, that's interesting. And, if I can show some interesting cost of acquisitions and, lifetime value of customers across all of this, then I know.
Right. Even just that data win, that insight into that behavior of how, customers who purchase this way behave this way. That's really an interesting point. Yeah. That you discover more about them by reaching them in different ways.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So it is a lot about the story and my belief and infecting other people with that, and a methodical way to then push on the bigger items.
That's fantastic. And I think one of the things that always stands out is the fact that you're very much yourself, and I love that. I think in business, I think sometimes you run into people and you can tell there's just they're sort of doing their job, and just like you just said, you have an infectious way about you, which is what's great, because you get people excited about the opportunities. And so, and to me, plays well into the title of this, and why I kind of stood out when we were talking, is that authentically, innovating. And so how have you found, and this is some, I guess, advice to other people out there. I mean, how have you found the ability to sort of be authentically innovate in your role, and still be part of like either a large organization or even an entrepreneur, like really be yourself within what you're doing?
Yeah, so being authentic, to me, the core of it is all about being vulnerable, which is not sort of what the corporate traditional corporate environment is typically is rewarded. But ultimately, companies are made up of people. Everything that you do is all about people, and so the connecting with people, which includes being vulnerable, is actually has really worked for me. And it doesn't work all the time. It's not, and it's not a ploy. It's literally who I am. I can't
Right.
be anything else. I am never going to talk corporate speak. I can be trained to behave, but I it's not. I don't. I find it so much more effective if I
Yeah.
am just being me, and also listening and responding to the response, and to what people are looking for.
Yeah.
And so um,
I think
that's
it
sort of
sets a
how I
tone.
do that. Yes,
I,
exactly. And in fact, my people are, I think, a little surprised when they first come and work in my environment, but it is really me, and it is how I am. And I
yeah.
like to think that it shows an ability that in the corporate world it can be this way. And
It can.
even
That's
upwards and across and all and so on. It's a belief. It's a lot of trust built. Once you build that trust, human to human, it's easier to push and suggest, and because people go, okay, I think she has it. And of course, you've got to prove the goods over time, right? It's like being able to actually make things happen and surprise people and go, oh, I never thought the Department of Insurance would ever consider that. And look at you, you just got it approved. Okay, I get it.
that feels
It's just awesome.
It is awesome, and I think it sets a great tone, and and I think you're right, though, that word vulnerability, it's not a bad thing. It's showing like I care so much. And I think there's also, that there should be this like work version and this personal version of myself. And I because it's similar in the sense that I can't not be myself. Sometimes I really wish I could, cover it up better and have a better poker face. But if I'm excited, it's like, oh, let's do that. If I'm not, it's like, but I think at the same time, it's like you said, like kind of channeling that and reining it and using it for the positive of, what, I'm okay taking this risk. I will be the first to say, what, I was wrong, and just going for it. And then by doing that, it encourages those around you, which is, I think, what's most impactful, right? It's that you
Yes,
have other people in the team who are willing to be vulnerable and take a risk in their own career or job in a positive way, because that's the only way we're going to change, right? Otherwise, someone doesn't raise their
totally.
hand and go, I think we could do this a little differently. If they don't have that confidence within their leadership group or company to say that, what
Yeah.
changes? Nothing.
And what
Yeah.
we're doing is really hard. It's really hard. And so I try to use my background to say, by the way, people, we're doing something really hard, and it's okay to feel like you're struggling. I feel that myself, and I share a lot about what's going on and what I'm thinking about, and bringing them in and saying, okay, how can we do this together? And I find that. Yeah, it really is hard. Anyone
Yeah.
who's done a startup, even within a corporate, it's high stress times.
It
But
is. It is.
the
That's
wins,
it.
the wins, and when you're trying to work with a partner and you have in mind the perfect partnership, and then when that doesn't happen, it's okay. It's okay to you sort of hope for the best and expect it not to be that, and we just go through and turn out actually something with much better than maybe you might
Well,
even.
enjoying the journey. It really is. It's that
Yes.
mindset of saying, like, I actually joke, and my kids will tease me, but I'll always say, like, I hope I never win the lottery. Like, and it's because, like, I just think life is so interesting, and it's fun to get your hands dirty and get into stuff. And, it's to have kind of just that work, that challenge every day, like I just can't imagine not. So it's like getting excited about the journey. And I think anyone listening or anyone who's at a company and doing their job great, if that's what you like. When people consider or come to me or are looking for roles in insure tech or anything, I always say, like, are you ready to like eat, drink, sleep, breathe this? Like, does work get you excited? Like because if it doesn't, like, that's okay. But I don't know.
Yeah, this probably isn't for you.
It might not
Absolutely.
be, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always looking for really curious people who can't help but go down some rabbit holes because they're excited about it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the, like I
That's
love
awesome.
this business. I find it exciting. And I think, anyone can, if they have that same energy and they've channeled in what excites them into this role that they're doing.
That's right. And so how, like, one of the things, that always stands is, I think people do think of insurance as kind of stodgy or traditional, and, and it's fine. We can handle it. But like, what do you wish everyone kind of understood about insurance that you think could maybe help change that perception? Especially when
Well,
it comes to recruiting.
so yes, recruiting in particular. So
Yeah.
let's focus on recruiting, because actually I think this is something that every insurance company could. There are some insurance companies that do really well at this, but typically most large insurance companies set their whole persona on what will attract their distribution partners.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be agents or big partners or direct to consumer, right? And but if you are going towards, say, agents or your large partners, the image you project is not necessarily one that's going to excite people who are human beings who want, might get excited to come and work for you, because
Right.
it seems, it's very different. You're aiming at a completely different audience. And so building in your recruiting a persona that's like actually what's real and fun about it. I know Chubb recently had launched, tried to show, look at these amazing people who work for Chubb and how much, their backgrounds are unique and different. And, they climb mountains, or they rode the motorcycle across the US. These are actually real people who work that you can come together with. And so it's like, it's not boring, and there are many things, and I think everybody has their own thing that gets them excited. The good thing about insurance is that every element is covered, I think. And so there's something for everyone. If you're creative, yes, there's a lot to go with, marketing and messaging and user experience. I mean, there's all sorts of ways to reflect that. If you're into numbers, well, of course, it's endless what you can do in insurance. But there's something for everyone, and I think just
that's our new tagline.
There's
something for insurance. There's something for everyone. I like
that's
it.
Right. There is. Yeah, for sure.
I love that. No, and I guess as we're wrapping up, I had to ask. So, do you have, with all the pet insurance background, have you taken the risk? Are you a pet parent yourself?
Yeah, of course. Oh my God. Yes, it's to really understand pets and people and all of that, you've got to have some pets. But so obviously growing up, I had a lot of pets because of my mother. I mean, we literally at one point had 8 cats and 2 dogs at the same time. And but I currently have 1 cat. Her sister died 2 years ago from cancer, which we did do treatments for, and I had pet insurance for. And then 1 part-time corgi, I call her my part-time corgi. She travels back and forth between their dad, my daughter's dad's house and mine. And she's adorable. Awesome. Paisley is her name, and she is quite the character. Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I really appreciate you joining, Laura. Always a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Yes, thank you, Jocelyn. I really appreciate it, as always, and looking forward to getting together in person one of these days too.
Oh, soon enough, hopefully. And thanks to everyone who's listened, all of our viewers and everyone who sent in some questions. And please find Laura and myself on LinkedIn and reach out. We love a conversation. So let's keep it going online as well after this. So thanks, everybody. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.